Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grain Market Blast. It is officially April, pinch punch, first of the month, and start us off on this fantastic spring month. It's a fantastic day here in London, at least. Angie, as usual, will give you a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, I best get the legals out of the way. So, as usual, nothing discussed in this space, session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ or indeed the hosts, which is myself, Mr. Ryan Paisley, and the amazing Mrs. Angie Setzer. Angie, hello. Happy Monday, happy Tuesday to you, and happy 1st of
It
April.
is Tuesday. Happy April Fool's Day. I wrote on the family calendar, trust no one. So
I,
Colton's
I
not
do get, however, I do get the impression in your house that should be on every day.
yeah. Yes, basically. Mostly mom. Like, don't trust mom, Colton. She will get ya. And we also wrote Liberation Day for tomorrow because it's a
Yeah,
big deal. So happy
Liberation Day
Liberation
Eve. Yeah.
Day Eve. Yes. I'm trying to figure out, is this a matching pajama holiday? Like, should I have ordered pajamas for the family for pictures? I'm not sure. I'm just still trying to figure that part out. But welcome. I am relieved. It's amazing how much emotional baggage you carry with you ahead of USDA reports, which might be something that only few understand. But yeah, basically, it's kind of like living in a little bit of a horror movie ahead of a big report, just simply because what you think you may have no idea once the
You know
report is
nothing.
over with. Yeah, exactly. And so you go into it, and everyone looks to me like, Angie, tell us what it's going to say. And I'm like, bro, I ain't got no idea. So we got the report out of the way. I feel better now. I know what the USDA is going to say yesterday. And so number wise, acres, you could say that the corn acre number was a little bit of a surprise, or at least it came in higher than what traders were anticipating.
Yeah.
But ahead of yesterday, and we had talked about this, like there was a 94.4 published figure for the acreage number. But most everyone, if we had come in at 94.4, that would have been bullish because I feel like most everyone ahead of yesterday was kind of like 95.5, 96. We talk about it in the outside markets, whisper numbers, and we have
Yeah.
the same thing in agriculture. And that was part of the reason why you saw beans sell off a little bit, is that the whisper number was, oh my gosh, what if corn's 96, 97 and beans are 82 or 81 million or whatever? And if that were to be the case, then things would have been, much tighter than what was anticipated or whatever.
Yeah.
So looking at it overall, acreage wise, yes, if you take the acres times the trend line yield that the USDA put out, we've got great production potential. Everything is fine, nothing to worry about. However, it is important to point out that both of the trend line yields that the USDA is putting out are record high. So if you're an agriculture tourist who's kind of looking at this and are like, hey, nothing to worry about here, plenty of production. Yes, it's just about everywhere in the world that we start. The baseline is a record, a new record, right? It's foolishness, but that's what we do. So,
Yeah.
so we'll play around with some new crop stuff. I think the biggest thing to me yesterday that I'm taking away from it is that some had said that they were really, really nervous that we would get a bearish quarterly stock surprise. We'd seen front month spreads widened out. We'd seen some things, kind of indicate that potentially maybe we had more corn, more supply of corn on hand than what was needed, which is true, which is accurate. If you look at it from an overall standpoint, farmer movement has been much greater than what we saw a year ago. On-farm corn stocks are down almost 600 million bushels
Oof.
from a year ago. And so that's all stuff that's been pushed into the pipeline. That's where your weak spreads have come from. That's where your weak basis has come from. And that's been my argument. I wrote an article for Bar Chart back in December, I think it was, maybe late November, where I said, watch out, late January into February, you're going to see some moves probably in spread and basis as farmer selling picks up. That's going to give you ideas that maybe there's more out there. As of yesterday with the USDA numbers, there's not at this point. So
Yeah.
it would open the door potentially to the USDA finally, admitting that export demand is higher than what they're currently projecting and a few other things, just simply because we got into to yesterday, reconciled the quarterly stocks figures, and they weren't far off from where they should be. You'd say the same thing for soybeans. Wheat did get a shot in the arm, though, which is interesting. Wheat had the surprise in the acres coming in a million lower than what traders were anticipating, with it cut between winter wheat and spring wheat. Spring wheat can still incentivize via a rally planting because it gets planted in the spring. Winter wheat, there's no putting smoke back in that cigarette. It's just one of those things where she done. There's no, you're not fixing that for now. Like winter
That's
wheat
to be
that's been
honest,
planted is
gotta
yes,
say,
that's yeah. Get what
putting
you
the
get and don't throw a fit. Yeah.
putting the smoke back in the cigarette is going to my list of Angieisms that I'm building up. I've not heard that one yet.
That was a good one. Well, you can't do it, so it's not
I know, no,
happening.
no.
The,
And straight
the
away I was mentally kind of picturing someone trying to do it, and I'm like, no, she's right, you can't do it.
You just can't do it. It's done. So that's the thing that we saw yesterday. That's kind of a rundown of the numbers in a nutshell. Were they big surprising factors? No, not really. I think the biggest thing that kind of caught my attention, just as a physical grain trader in the Eastern Corn Belt, is the vast difference versus a year ago of available supply. And that's one of the things that I've been talking to my growers about. And just it'll be interesting to see. I love cash grain. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see how it moves. And so just to get a summary of that yesterday is a good deal. As we talked about to start the day, obviously, point two is it's Liberation Day Eve. Tomorrow is a big deal. And it appears like we have a fork in the road, and the administration has not yet decided, or at the very least, according to reports, the administration has not yet decided which way they want to go.
Yeah,
To the right of us is, lightweight, individual, direct, true reciprocal tariffs, and to the left of us is to hell with it, just give them all, we're grading on a curve, everyone gets 20%, and
yeah,
that's one of those things that the left, the 20%, the blanket tariffs, the everything gets charged. Most economists, analysts, experts, things like that are saying that is not really what we want to see. That's not good news. It could be potentially very bad for us. That would open up the door to the greatest amount of potentially legal challenges and trade partner angst, whereas the other one is going to be very hard to implement. So we've got our pluses and our minuses, and no one's really sure which way we're going to go at this point. Though the administration is talking about the generation of 6 trillion in revenue, how that may end up being a tax break or something like that. Like we really don't know. Like we at this point in time, and I am open, Ryan. If you're like, oh wait, no, did you not see this article? Like they laid it all out. I would love to hear that, but I'm guessing that today is just going to be a lot noisier,
yeah.
with tomorrow being the big to do at the
And
roastery.
this is the thing, right? Because it's so, literally you blink and you miss a new headline. I think
Yes,
some of like, so, normally like ahead of elections or ahead of like big events like this, we see some, all right, there's a lot of noise, but we see some very good articles, especially from like sell side research and stuff, where people put together like nice infographics of what's expected, what's coming down the pipe and stuff. But the fact is, I think everyone's realised that they could spend a week coming up with something, but literally during that week of putting it together, they've had to amend it 5 times, and it's
yes,
literally it is good for it. It's valid for like the first 2 hours it's released. So there's a dearth of decent commentary on this and exactly what to expect, because no one's really willing to put their name on the line,
yeah.
because literally by the time they've hit publish, it'll be out of date anyway.
I was going to say, at this point, I would say that anything that comes out as definitive today is probably the wrong report. So if you do
Absolutely.
see something that comes out and everyone's like, this is exactly what's going to happen, and there's a consensus amongst folks that this is what's going to take place, guess what? April Fools. Because it's
Yeah.
not. That's just my bet. That's not a political statement. That's nothing. I think Trump is going to do everything he can to be the one to announce the thing.
Yeah.
And so
No, I
that means
agree.
you're going to have several different fake things, and you're going to have several, so just be careful. And yeah, but we'll see what tomorrow brings. And that'll be another thing we talked about yesterday: selling the rumor, buying the fact. Right? Like we have been selling rumors and buying facts. Now we've been stuck in bearish uncertainty. It's the opposite of what everyone likes to talk about in grains, which is buying the rumor and selling the fact.
Yeah.
We've just been selling on the idea that this is going to be really bad. So let's see what happens. You saw that yesterday with the report. So last thing that is on my radar, well, last major thing that is on my radar, because there's a million other things that are
Yeah.
radaring over here.
Right.
But we did see something like, we've been talking about not really seeing anything outright from the administration when it comes to how they intend to approach biofuels. Like that's been one of the arguments. And the first Trump administration wasn't the greatest. Like we just weren't really friendly towards biofuels. We had a lot of small refinery exemptions and small, like a pushback on RVOs and some of these other things, the renewable volume obligations. And so yesterday, well, last week we had seen that about the interesting coalition between ag and oil, and how they had come together and all agreed that they wanted to have increased, investments in biofuels, increased renewable volume obligations, like all of these things have been agreed upon from two unlikely, friends. If this were a Disney movie, it would be super cute, Fox and the Hound style. And so we've seen that happen. But then yesterday, to me, we saw probably what is the biggest, in my opinion, public declaration from the administration so far that they are going to support biofuel and the growth of domestic demand for biofuels. And in that, we saw basically Secretary Rollins announced in Iowa yesterday that the USDA is going to roll out nearly $540 million in funding that's going to over 540 projects, that'll expand domestic biofuel infrastructure. And so one of the things to me that's great, you know what I mean? Like we need that first and foremost. But one of the things to me that I thought was most important and that everyone should kind of take home with them was in the background section of the announcement, where they basically said that the USDA is, quote, aggressively exploring additional ways to unleash American energy and incentivize the production and use of homegrown biofuels. They said then that they're working with the EPA to increase our RVOs and to get to where we can have year-round sale of E15. With the last sentence in this announcement being, in the current agricultural economy, U.S. biofuels remains a bright spot and a tremendous opportunity. To me, that says a lot. Now, obviously, we have to have policy implemented to follow through. We need to see a return of the blender's credit or an outline of the 45Z. Like, there's a lot of steps that we have to take, but this is a positive sign, and I think should be taken as such. And so, to me, that was kind of the other thing to be paying attention to. Obviously, we have to get beyond the tariffs and beyond all of these other things,
Yeah.
but it really looks like we will see a focus from the administration on not only bolstering demand globally for like US produced ethanol, which is one of the things that we're seeing, but also working to bolster demand domestically. And really, kind of one of the things you saw in the announcement yesterday was almost like they're looking to replace these climate practices, these climate smart technologies, some of these other things with just outright biofuels. Like that's their idea of tackling the environmental concerns. And it is the lowest hanging fruit. It is the greatest way to put a shot in the arm in your agricultural commodity and, bolster domestic fuel production, yada, yada. I'll jump off my soapbox, but that about wraps it up, I think, for the day as we head into Tuesday.
Amazing. Uh, Tuesday all day.
Right?
Um, Angie, thank you so much for giving us all your wisdom. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, especially our regular listeners. We really appreciate you. As usual, this will be going up on YouTube, on Twitter or X, whatever we'll call it now, Substack. Again, I need to pull my finger out and sort out the Spotify, but various places. And most importantly, if you are trading today, keep it tight. And if you are out working today, please stay safe. And we'll catch you all tomorrow.
Yes, we'll be back tomorrow. Have a good one, guys.